Yes, hi everybody. I was going to do a reading on Jiddu Krishnamurti, and I am familiar with him because one of the first books I chose, one of the more mystic-based books, was his poetry. And this poetry is really beautiful, and it speaks a lot about nature and really, it was very deep. It's very rich. I just really enjoyed it. Some of his other books I had more difficulty connecting with and understanding, but it was his book about the poetry books that I really enjoyed. So let's get a feeling of him. And also, he did have a Kundalini awakening. He struggled with that with a lot of pain. So that is also something in his history that's there. He didn't speak a lot about it, but it was definitely there. So let's see what happens, okay? Okay, and as the pendulum comes close to his energy here, there is a very nice feeling of stillness. There's a nice rotating movement that feels very light. It's lifting nicely. A very nice feeling here. And a lot of stillness around his energy. One can really feel the calmness, like the calm in the storm, is really what Jiddu Krishnamurti's energy is feeling like in this moment. Okay, so lifted one that was very godlike or saint-like in a way, in his heart, in his energy, in his spirit, with a freedom voice that spoke of freedom, spoke of being free. He had that in him. And I can also see the snake, the Kundalini dance was in him. He went through those fires of sacrifice. He had that within his being. He spoke little of it. It was there, though, like this torrent, like this pure river that eventually ended up running more like a pure river, like a pure column in him. Okay, and again, it lifts very nicely around him like a halo of sorts around his form, his spirit energy. Okay, so he was with many others. He was with many others during his time on Earth. He did treat them well. He treated them with dignity. He spoke about freedom. He spoke these words. They were not fully hearing, fully understanding what his message was in a way that it could release these energies in him. This is the feeling. Yet he was in himself quite freed up, is the word, freed up in his energy, in his heart, in his head, with saint-like type of energy, one could say. Okay, shaking in him again, the Kundalini. There was shaking. He went through that. He went through the shaking. He went through the pain. Okay, a lot of pain in him that came. Suffering of himself, of his body suffered. He, though, stayed very centered. He stayed like I don't know, just in that pure space, in a space that was more like light, I do hear saint-like, you know, and as we know, saints go through a lot of purification process, pain, suffering, struggles. So this was there in his field. Okay, so he, again, brother passed. He had a brother that passed. He had a brother. I can see two young boys holding hands, like walking in India. They just were like two flames, truly. They were like two hearts. They were really quite a pair. They just one can say that they had such love for each other, and yet it just was incredible, really, their love, their way of feeling with each other. And you can see the pendulum move to this side, like his brother was one that he just felt so deeply. He felt his touch, he felt his love, he felt his laughter, he felt everything about him. I mean, it was equal that way with those two. And his brother passed, and that was very, river of tears for him, and yet he remained very pure, like unblemished within himself, even though these strong emotions came forward. Okay, so again, one can see a cross, more cross on his forehead. Just a holy man. He was a holy man. He was, whatever way, whether it came out where people weren't completely getting it or whatever, in him that was there. Okay, so he was Shanti. He was Shanti. He was at peace. He was merged in that stillness. He walked land. He walked the earth. He walked it in a way like this is myself. I mean, not with those thoughts, but with his heart on, like look at this land. This beauty. It just was. It was his own heart there, and he loved nature. He was within it in a way that, people may have not noticed that he was so within himself all the time, but he was. He was just. He was the same. He just felt. He felt that river of light in all things. And the natural world really was a big a place that he went alone a lot and sat there a lot. So let's see if there's anything for Jiddu Krishnamurti in his physical world time. So it's saying no. And in terms of now, is this really matter? Is it the same for him? So it is the same. It's the same for Jiddu in the way of being at peace, at rest. The pendulum never once went down. It's very light. It's very lifted. He's at rest, and I do see some clouds with the sun. He's there. He's in eternity, really. He's in eternity's light. He's blessed. He's a blessed man is what he is. He's a blessed man. Okay, so it just lifts. It's so airy. It's so light. It's very lovely feeling. And he does enrich things with that light. He enriches it. It's all one to him. It's all the same. And it's just... in terms of his dying, let's see, did he have a fear of death? No. Was he afraid at the time of his passing? No. Did he think of death? He thought of death in a way that he didn't worry about it. It was grace, it was grace in all things. So he wasn't heavy with that worry in that way. So when death came, let's see, Jiddu, how was he? he was the same. He was not caring for this body, or that would go, was he? Was he? He was not, okay? And in his younger years, he was really a beautiful man. He just, that was just something that was here now and then gone, like a transient shadow, a passing phase. But, you know, he just was so at peace and in light, truly. Okay, so anything else for Jiddu Krishnamurti? What a lovely reading, and not a surprise. I've always felt that with him. So I believe that's about it, and we think, you know, it's just a joy to any type of light that's around, that has been here, that, you know, in all directions, we just want it to come. Okay, so blessings to all this evening. Have a lovely night. Good night.